Hey guys, this is Coach Chris. Welcome to my channel where we break down international level fights for strategies and tactics that you can use in your own matches. However, due to coronavirus and everyone being on lockdown, what I'm doing now is a little bit more tutorial based stuff, and today we're answering how to throw a spin kick. Alright, so in this video I'm going to break down the conditions in which I use a spin kick, when I've used a spin kick in the past, and I'm going to break down how I've trained for it and how you guys can eventually use a spin kick as well. So in this video I'm going to be joined by my little brother Kyle. And the first thing I want to make sure though before I throw a spin kick is I want to make sure I'm either at least the same height or a little bit shorter. And the reason I want those two conditions is because if I'm the one who's taller, one, I feel like the smaller person is usually a little bit faster than I am. But number two, if I'm the same height or shorter, there's a higher chance that they're going to be using their front legs to defend themselves. And that kind of predictability is what we want before we throw a spin kick. The next thing I'm looking for is if they're doing something predictable. So like I said, if I'm just a little bit shorter or the same height, there's a high chance they're gonna be using the front leg a lot, and that's something you can time. Or if they're a little bit shorter, or let's say whenever they're at this distance, they like to use their back leg ground kick, that's a time you can spin. Or if they like to blitz at you, that's another time you can spin as well. So if they do something predictable, that's a great time for you to use a spin kick. And then the last two conditions are, one, I try not to use this in the opening part of the second round, because generally when you go back to your coach tells you information, you go back into the ring, you kind of have an idea they made an adjustment already. They're expecting something new out of you in the first couple seconds, so I try not to throw it in the first 10 seconds of the second round when they're expecting something new to come out. I want them to be lulled to sleep and not really thinking about it coming out as well. That being said, another time I try not to spin is if I'm down in the third round and there's 30 seconds left. Some people try and use that bailout spin, and personally for me, I haven't found that very effective, because I find when I try and spin during that time, the opponent knows it already. It's easy for them to evade, and I don't want them evading my spin kick. So if it's in the second round, the first 10 seconds of the second round, try not to use it then. I want them lulled to sleep. And in the last 30 seconds of the last round, I don't want to be throwing it too much then either, because I don't want them predicting my spin. All right guys, so tips for throwing the spin kick. Number one is do not change the way your guarding stance looks. I'll see a lot of kids, especially younger, intermediate, or beginner fighters, when we tell them to spin, their normal guarding stance is like this, and then when they're about to spin, they get really sideways, or even worse, they start turning their back a little bit like this. And it's really obvious to the opponent that that's gonna happen. So when I'm gonna spin, this is my normal guarding stance. When I'm gonna spin, this is what I look like. It's the exact same. You wanna try and practice all of your spin kicks from your normal guarding stance. So that's the first thing. So the second part for the actual kick, there are a lot of variations for the hook kick, but you have to find what's effective and efficient for you. I like to bring my legs straight up, straight backwards. So instead of swinging wide like this, I'll swing straight back almost up. So that way, point A to B, it reaches a little bit faster. That's for my hook kick. But you gotta find what works for you. I don't want you guys to sacrifice your efficiency or your ability to make contact with the helmet for looking pretty or looking nice. This is in a demonstration. This is to get points and to hit people in the head with your foot. In order to do that, you gotta be fast. Some spins you can look at is, one of them is Stephen Lambden. He has a great hook kick. Study him for when he spins. Another person to look at is In Kyodon. He has an off timing back kick. He throws it as a combination in really weird spots, but he overall has great technique, and he's been scoring with that a lot. So he has a great one. And then there's also a person, my teammate, Arvin Alcantara. He has a no-look back kick, and so watch some of his fights to see if you can catch it. He has great timing, great technique, and he gapped Iran with it in like 2016. Really phenomenal. And so study the back kick or the hook kick, figure out the way you like to spin, and practice that technique for yourself. All right guys, so the back kick and the hook kick are generally really hard moves to do even by themselves. But to kind of practice at home, what I like to do, or what I did, especially when I didn't have one, I was trying to get one, was I just lined up next to a wall and normal guarding stance, and then from here I back kick. Boom, and then back down. And I do that until you can do it without effort. And the reason you want to do that is to make sure that your leg comes out completely straight and you're not swinging wide. If you swing wide, you're gonna hit this wall. So you're gonna be here, boom, back. And so practice that until it's really natural for you guys. And do it from your normal guarding stance. So personally, I had to make my own adjustments, because my normal stance until about 2015, 2016 or so was actually more square. I didn't fight sideways like most Taekwondo fighters do. I fought very square because I liked a little bit extra speed for my roundhouse kicks and for blitzing forward. So I had to adapt my back kick. A normal back kick from here would shoot to the side that way, because that's where my back's facing. I'm not sideways, right? I just said that. Boom. So what I had to do when I practiced was I'd be against the wall here, and I'd practice my jump back kick from my stance, from my weird semi-front stance. Boom. And I'd still make sure I could kick straight without hitting the wall. So whatever your stance is, whatever your normal fighting stance is, make sure you're practicing your spin from that stance. As I was iterating from before, you don't want to telegraph to your opponents you're about to spin on them. You need to keep it hidden. So that's for practicing the actual technique. So 1 is do not change your guarding stance. Number 2 is make sure your technique's actually good, but you can practice that by practicing on a wall. 3, I covered that a little bit earlier. You want to make sure your timing is good. So that's going to be either on their motion if they're on offense, or you're going to force distance and get inside to force a reaction for if you're the one trapping them. And there's one more little pointer I want to give you guys, and that's the use of your arms. So usually, super old school, you're going to give me a back leg round kick out. You would just back kick like that, or you jump back kick, etc. But in new school, with the front leg, it looks like that. It was a threat for a cut. So the way we managed this pre-2016, I would say, when slight grabbing was allowed, was if they cut, we'd literally just take our hand and move it to the side. So don't stand right here, Coach Kyle. So if he cuts at me and leave it up there, here, I'll literally take this hand. I wouldn't clamp on it. I'll take my hand though and swipe just like this, boom, to move it that way as I'm spinning. So if we did it, boom, I would use that, move it to the side, and then spin. But now that's not allowed anymore. So what I do now instead is I will use my arm as the hook. So if he cuts, I use my arm as a hook as I'm going to my spin. Boom, that way. And so you can use that defensively, he's pushing, or even on offense if you slide in. Oh, if I slide in. Oh, sorry. Or you can use that offensively. If I slide in and he lifts his front leg. Well, yeah, no, actually that's Or I can use it offensively, and so if I slide in or switch, if I slide, then you have to lift your front leg. Okay, one more time. Or you can use it offensively, so if I switch or slide into Coach Kyle's distance and he lifts his front leg, boom, you use your hand and you're swiping to the side to hopefully, from here you want to pull to the side to open up a little bit for you to land your kick. That's what you're doing with your arm as you're sliding in or you're setting your trap. You want to do that, and it works the second thing too, keep yourself covered. I want you guys to watch my feet on this. So here, if I'm sparring Coach Kyle and I'm planning to spin, one of the ways I can get in is here, relax, and then blitz, fast, and then get ready to boom, spin either to the body or spin to the face. Or I can be out of distance here, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a deep switch this way to get into the lift. And then I can spin off that. So it's gonna look like this, motion, boom, there you go. Obviously, when you're sparring and you guys have pads on, don't pull it. You wanna throw it just to practice, but also don't knock your teammates out because that's not a nice thing. You want to find that little happy medium. Obviously, Coach Kyle's not wearing gear, so I'm pulling my kick. But you guys, I hope you guys are understanding the timing aspect of when you should be throwing these kicks, especially on the offensive trap. So the first way you use a spin kick, either to the body or to the head, is generally sometimes if someone is pushing towards you or taking the match and bringing it to you, and they're using that front leg a lot. This is something I've tracked Woodisich from Germany in the Swiss Open with. What I scouted for before was that he used to cut, and then immediately he'd go there front leg round, and a lot of his game was based on that. Sure enough, when I was going against him, it was the same deal. He would come with the cut and then around, and so on one of those iterations when he came after the cut, I saw that round kick coming, and I hit him with hook. Now, in actuality, I missed just a little bit, but because the refs were there and it was still subjective, and the video replay actually showed it looked like I hit him. They gave me the points. I ended up winning that and winning the Swiss Open against Woodisich, so that was pretty cool. So like I said, one of the things that I want you guys to focus on is if they have something predictable, that's a good time for you to spin. Generally speaking, especially in today's meta, if they have that front leg and they're using that front leg a lot, that's an opportunity for you to spin against them. And so for offensive guys, that's actually, when you're throwing the kick defensively, that's the only option you really have, is you gotta wait for them to use that predictability, that predictable move, et cetera, and you wanna be kicking it at the same beat. So if Coach Kyle is kicking and I'm a half beat short, wait, he's gonna hit me, or he can kick and roll. But if you do it at the exact same time, it's really hard for them to defend because their momentum's coming in, so it's hard for them to change direction as they're rushing towards you with a kicker, anything like that. And so you want to be catching and firing your kick about the same time they're coming in, or even just a tiny bit later, but anything more than that, they might be able to roll off or cut or change it to a cut to push you out, something like that. You want it on the same beat. That's really important. And so to use the kick defensively, it's the exact opposite of the offense. But what you want from your offensive trap on this kind of spin is you want to make sure that whatever they're going to use on defense is predictable. So for example, if I slide into Coach Kyle's distance, I'm expecting that front leg to come up, and then it's really easy for me to spin for a back kick or for a hook kick. And so the way I force offense, or the way I try and trap offensively, is I will be at a distance and then I come in really, really fast to try and bait that front leg. And I'll either do that with slide and then I'll spin, or the other option is I'll stay here, boom, and then I'll spin. I'm a little bit out of practice, but you guys get the idea. You want to come into distance in a sudden movement from a relaxed position to try and get them to use that predictable move. Either that's a front leg, that's a back leg, one of those options, and you want to be spinning as soon as you see that leg move even a tiny bit. All right, guys, and last thing, you guys got to practice. You guys got to practice the training. I see a lot of this come up on Reddit. It's like, how do I land my spin kick? Well, you got to lose sometimes, and when I was practicing my spin kicks, all I did for like 2 weeks was I would go into the ring and I would try and spin kick my opponent. And once they caught on, they'd obviously just fight me and only kick to my backside, and then I'd change it up. But as soon as I could, I'd try and go right back to the spin kick. And I lost like 3 or 4 I lost every match except for like the last few ones, and I was like, I finally have my back kick. I can finally do it, and that's how you move forward. That's really the only way to get it down, guys. If there was another way, I would definitely recommend that way. You can maybe visualize, I might speed it up, but in the end, it comes down to practice and feeling good and feeling comfortable with it. And the only way you're gonna get that is via practice. I also just wanna put out my apologies. In my most recent years, I did not practice this as much. I kind of just assumed I had it, and my apologies for everyone I fought recently. My back kicks were not the most accurate. I'm sorry. And so if you guys found anything in here valuable, or you guys like these tips, please consider liking and subscribing below. That really helps me out. Or if you felt I missed anything, also please leave a comment below. I'd love to edit and keep adding to these videos to help everyone else in the Taekwondo community. Thank you to my editor, Mick. His link is down below. He does great work for me every week. I really, really appreciate it. And also thank you to my Patreon supporter, Michael. For those of you who don't know, I have a Patreon now. So if you found my videos useful, please consider subscribing on there and supporting me that way. Till then, guys, keep safe, and I'll see you guys next week.